In the previous video, I shared my way of approaching AI workflows in games to have them do the heavy lifting and leave the creativity as human as possible. However, there was a question. Specifically, a traveler called I Fukuyama asked, I think your AI is a lot more competent than mine. Could you make a hands-on demo for that? Ideally, with a local model. I really can't imagine a workflow where the AI would have access to my whole code base and be able to do useful things in it. So that is a very valid concern, and it's something that I shared in the beginning. So today I want to do exactly that. I want to jump in with a hands-on example, and I want to preface it with these two caveats. First of all, for local model, it's something that I haven't been able to get to work in production as well. I tried back in the day with OpenClaw and DeepSeek and Gemma and a few other models, and I don't know, perhaps it's because I'm not a super engineer or something, but I couldn't get it to output anything useful that I could use in the game. However, I was much more successful with Codex, and not to say that you can only do this with Codex, but it's something that has worked for us so far. So what I want to do today is, instead of going in and making a full-fledged game, which is going to take quite a bit of time, I want to show you the smallest example possible to illustrate all of the workflow and all of its important points, while keeping the task simple and making sure that I can grab it in just a few minutes and present it to you in an easy to understand way. So this is a real conversation I had with Codex, and the task here was, you know how there's these usage limits in Codex. So this window here to the right, there's usage limits per 5-hour windows and per week, so per 7 days. So I knew they were somewhere hidden in the menu of Codex, but I didn't know exactly where it was. They kept changing it. Once it was in the settings, then it was in a different place, then it was back in the settings. So I thought, you know, that's way too confusing for me. I want to be able to see it at all times, and I want it to be accurate. So I'm just going to jump in and give you the first message in that conversation to show that this approach doesn't require any technical knowledge really, and most importantly, it can be given in natural language. So I'm talking about this message to the top right here. If it's too small, I apologize, but I'm going to read it all out to you, so you don't have to zoom in to check it out. So I simply said, the first message was, hey, listen, I want to try something else. And this is different to my previous attempts, so those were in a different chat. So I say, I want to try something else. Is it possible for you to build me a baby widget that I can have on my taskbar, on the right side of the taskbar, before the clock, and all that it shows me is my current Codex usage limits for the 5-hour window and for the week. And I wanted that to update once per 3 minutes. Is that something you can make for me? So this is a prompt. It's very messy, and it's definitely natural language versus code or anything technical. And the response was, yeah, I can probably build this with one important constraint. Windows does not really have an arbitrary custom widget embedded directly before the clock. So I was talking about this area to the bottom right here, so on the right side of the Windows taskbar. The practical version is a small tray icon or a taskbar status app, and so on. And it goes ahead and it outlines a plan. Now, a small side thing I noticed, there's a pigeon walking on my rail on the window. Can you see it? Random pigeon in the video. Anyway, so what I noticed is that Codex and similar AIs will try to make big plans out of what they're trying to do. I have been very unsuccessful in this approach. So whenever I try to make a grand plan for this entire task that I'm going to work on, I never managed to get the plan to lead me to the thing that I wanted in one go. And instead, what I found way more successful is to decide one little baby step at a time. So if we're talking about games, instead of saying something like build a Vampire Survivors-like game, perhaps start by saying, let's put the player on the screen first and define how the player moves. So that approach is quick and it's easy to test and it's easy to iterate on. If you say, make me a grand plan for this and that game, I found it to be very frustrating, very slow, and unsuccessful, but perhaps other people have better results. Anyway, so getting back to this example, what I changed is, instead of having the AI make lots of plans, I said eventually, look, don't worry about plans and just let's take it one step at a time. So that improved the workflow immensely. So it put together a basic plan here. I checked it and I said, okay, yeah, go ahead and do your local investigation and tell me if it's possible, or ask me any questions you need before continuing. So this thing about questions I found very useful with AI in general, even if it's not for code or development, because most models are trained to, so to speak, shoot from the hip without really gathering information and without really understanding the context, which I think hurts the results a lot. So I always include some sort of questions prompt in my instructions. So please ask me if you don't understand anything. Before we start, make sure to ask any questions, something like that, some form of this in my prompts. And then it says, yes, it's possible as a Windows tray app. Embedding a custom widget directly inside the taskbar before the clock is not realistic on modern Windows, but a tray icon fly out on the right side taskbar area is realistic. So anyway, it gives me the format here. So what I wanted to do is have these two numbers, the 5-hour window percentage remaining number and the weekly percentage remaining number. And then I said, all right, do you want to go and put together a first version? We should have the format of 5-hour percentage reset time / weekly percentage refresh time. So here I'm just talking about the formatting. And again, you see how loose and badly voiced this is. In fact, I didn't type this, of course, I was just dictating it. So there's some errors in dictation as well, but see that current AI is quite robust and it can understand what you mean despite the errors. Anyway, again, we're still stuck in phases and planning mode. Later on, I say, look, don't worry about phases and plans, just go ahead and execute. And you'll notice that this was already in full access permission. That means that Codex for this computer, it can do whatever it wants. Now, other travelers commented that, it's quite scary having an AI do whatever it wants on your computer, and I agree. It's definitely scary. But what I found to be its saving grace in this case is being very specific. So if you tell the AI something like, optimize my computer, who knows what it is going to do. But if you say something specific like we're doing here, like implement this one specific thing, it would be very strange for the AI to go and rearrange your Outlook emails, for example. So anyway, I approve the plans and we have the first version. And here I want to show you what I meant in the previous video about taking screenshots and showing what's wrong in every case. So here it did the implementation, but it created a taskbar icon instead that a tray window icon instead, that when you mouse over it, it tells you you have so much percentage left and for the 5 hours and for the week and so on. But remember, this is not exactly what I wanted, so the information here is correct, but the placement is not. And in fact, I didn't want a tray icon, I just wanted this information alone to be hovering over the taskbar here on the right side of it. So I simply took a screenshot of it and I said, and see, like I circled the place where I would like this information to appear at instead of its current location. So I said, okay, I see it, but I would actually like it to run in the area that I circled in red here. And I attached the screenshot to this message. And so anyway, it gives its response, and I say, no, I want it in the same space as Cortana takes, just on the right. Anyway, I describe it a little bit better. So we go back and forth a little bit, and I check it, and it makes plans still, and I say approved, and then here I finally say, don't ask me for approvals for the rest of this conversation, for God's sake, because I was getting quite fed up with it. So here is the first result that it did. I don't know if you can see it, but the clock is here, and so just left to the clock, it created this this little overlay. And basically here we're already done. It already did what I asked it to do. So for the rest of the conversation, I was just doing minor adjustments. But this is a small sample of how we went from having nothing in place to creating a brand new application where, if you think of it in game terms, this would be a brand new feature for the game. And we're doing it using natural language and not much technical information at all. So I wanted to also show you one more thing, and the reason why I have LM Studio open here. So LM Studio is an app that lets you run local AI models, mainly for text generation. So I wanted to do something similar here. I wanted to create a VRAM overlay for LM Studio. So I know that every model that's loaded on my VRAM is taking so-and-so space. So I know if I'm pushing the space or if I still have VRAM space available to, I don't know, launch another application or something. So after I was done with the codecs part, again in the same conversation, I said, actually, you know what? That VRAM part is more useful, to be honest, because before I also included VRAM in the overlay. That VRAM part is more useful, to be honest, on the LM Studio application window. So do you think you could add that part exactly as we had it for codecs, but to LM Studio? Maybe just under the LM Studio logo at the top of the window. Again, super messy, super natural language, no technical information here whatsoever. So here, because the context of the conversation was very much on point with what we're trying to do, and I didn't have to re-explain what this application is and what it does and what I'm expecting out of it. It had all this context in this conversation. So it right away went and said, added the LM Studio VRAM overlay and restarted the app. So basically this worked right away because it was similar to what we had before. I actually had the VRAM part in the codecs overlay text before, but I removed it because I didn't need it anymore. So after it implemented it, but in the wrong place again. So here again, I did the screenshot trick, although it's an extremely simple screenshot. I said, well, here's the LM Studio. So I'm circling it with the mouse now. But the information was here to the left of the window. And so I wanted to say, no, I don't want it to the left of the window. I want it under the logo, under this part. So I meant this area here. So this part I did just this morning, just now. And I said, nice. Do you think you could move the VRAM indication just under the LM Studio mark around the place where I said the green line in the screenshot? So again, that's the screenshot. This is the green line that I drew with Windows snapshot tool. And it simply did it because it could understand exactly what I meant. Now, here was an interesting misconception. So as you can see, there's another logo of the LM Studio here to the left. So I didn't notice that there's actually two logos on the application here, one to the left and one to the center of the top of the window. So actually, this is exactly why I said screenshots and highlighting is important, because you don't know what the AI sees exactly. So it's very important to guide it. So here I said again, it still hasn't moved. If you check the screenshot, it's all the way to the left. I want it to be under the LM Studio logo, the one with the text, not just the icon. And then it did it. You can see in this screenshot what it did. So now it is under the LM Studio logo, but it's a bit to the left. So I want it to be somewhere along this green area. So I took the screenshot and I said almost there. I want you to adjust it again to be in that green area that I highlighted. And I want it to be anchored there if I move the window or I resize it or whatever. So I want it to always be under that logo. And basically it got it right at that case. It was just a little bit off to the left. So I just said a bit more to the right, please. The center of the VRAM sentence should be under the center of the LM Studio sentence, so to speak. So again, you can see how imprecise this wording is. I didn't talk about pixels or placement or anything. There is not even a screenshot in this final message. But I don't know if you can see it here. Now it's nicely centered under the LM Studio mark. So basically that's it. That covers it for what I used to... So this is the process that I use AI with to implement brand new features. And you might be saying, well, okay, this is good for a simple Windows test, but game development is much more complicated. And I agree. That's the reason why we didn't go into a full-fledged Skyrim example today, and we did that simple task instead. So the reason why I chose this example is because for game development, my prompts and my screenshots are identical to what I showed you just here. So I describe in simple words the feature I want. I take screenshots of where I want it to appear. And if the AI gets it wrong and it's misplaced or it's lacking information or the visuals are wrong or whatever, then I use these circling tools to say exactly what thing is wrong and exactly how I want it to do it to be correct. There's one more thing that really helps with larger software projects, and that takes a little bit of time to build up. And it's not something you can do in one step, I think, but it's very much worth it. So the only thing I do differently before I jump into a bigger software development project is to ask the AI first to take a look at the code base and identify what the key structures are, what the base code is all about. And then I give it some information about the software itself, or rather the application. So the code you're about to look at is actually a game with so-and-so in it. The player is supposed to move like this. This is the objective of the game. It has so many levels. These are the main actions. So again, this doesn't have to be super in-depth. And if you have a Confluence with all this information already or a text file, you can provide that text file as a reference. But having the AI build its own file that it maintains knowledge of the project and what it wants to do as an application is the base you need to go then and say something like, for example, right now the player only has a pistol as a weapon and it shoots one shot at a time, but I want to add a machine gun that shoots 10 shots at a time. And this is how I want you to implement it. So that message of on top of the base context makes a lot of sense. But if I were to give this message without any context, then the AI can do its best to like quickly shoot from the hip and blurt out an answer, but probably the quality is not going to be great, and you're just going to spend more time correcting it. But then again, AI is getting smarter by the day, so perhaps even that will give a really good result. So anyway, that's it for a super short tutorial with a hands-on example and starting from scratch and not providing any technical information whatsoever, at least from the human side. So I hope this was interesting for you. If you have any questions about this or different questions about which AI to use and what model and so on, then please go ahead and ask me down in the comments. In this case, I used Codex because it had the best results for us. I don't know if we're going to be using it forever. I mean, models are changing every day. To answer Ai Fukuyama's questions about local models, my experience with them is that typically the more space they take in the VRAM, the more capable they are. But at the moment, graphics cards are becoming more and more expensive, and small models, they're very good for text generation and like isolated code generation. I'm not sure if they could handle some high-level tasks like the ones I showed today. Definitely not in a big code base. So if you have a giant VRAM graphics card, then perhaps this topic is interesting to explore, I think. But if your graphics card doesn't have so much VRAM, or your computer in general is not a very heavy-duty graphics powerful computer, then buying a graphics card like that would cost thousands of dollars likely at this point. So even a small subscription to the other AI models, even a $20 one per month, I think gets you all you need to get started. And then you can make a decision whether paying for higher subscriptions will really make a meaningful impact in your project, or whether pacing what you have is enough to keep the cost low and still get you to output everything you need for your game. Anyway, see, even with this tiny example, time tends to run away with us. So anyway, thank you so much for your time. And as always, have fun.